my typical week would be working Monday to Friday. I was in asset management and construction at the time. So I'd work Monday to Friday. We started to used to train on a Tuesday and Thursday, then it went to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, then it went to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday mornings, playing weekends all the time. So there was a lot changed, and then we used to obviously work all day and then go and train at night, which was pretty difficult. Kenny Seal's doing that at the moment.
Yeah.
Sort of like the yoga type pose.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff.
Because after training, I went, what's Kenny doing? Sat there underneath the sticks, like in this yoga position.
Yeah.
Well, he's doing his breathing exercises. Okay, whatever. Can you just come and have a cup of tea like us? You know?
You any of that in the 80s and 90s?
No.
Let's go to the Inn of Good Hope, that's what it
was. We're joined by Ian Blease, the head of rugby and operations at Salford Red Devils, the director of rugby and operations. And we're going to go back to the beginning with this. You know, we discussed this outside. We're going to tell the story of Ian Blease in this podcast.
Wow.
So back when you was starting playing rugby league in the 80s and finishing in the 90s, completely different sport back then, I imagine. So when you were a child, in your early years, where did your interest in rugby league come from? What were your earliest memories of it?
I was actually football mad, like a lot of people in the city of Salford and surrounding areas. Supported United for still do to this day. As a youngster coming through, never quite good enough to make it. And then I left school, and a friend of mine, Mike Holiday, who sadly passed away, was really into his rugby. I think Les Holiday, his brother, was playing for Swinton at the time. Said, come down to Folly Lane, local team, amateur club, which I went down. My dad was like, what are you going playing rugby for now? I'm like, just fancy having a go at it. And it was bizarre. Within I think about 18 months, scouts were coming down. We had a good team at the time, actually. And I think out of the team, 12 ended up signing professional terms. I went to Salford. Nearly went to Wigan, nearly went to Leigh, I think, at the time. Ended up at Salford, which I really wanted to do, really, because I thought at the time, up-and-coming club, John Wilkinson had just taken over as chairman. I managed to make my debut within the first season, I think. So, good choice. Stayed there for 10 years, maybe more. Got a testimonial. Played in some great teams, played in some average teams, shall we say. But forged a really good career doing that. Alongside my work at the time, because it was semi-professional. I think Wigan were the only team professional, and like you say, the game's changed massively now. Wigan were the only fully professional team at that time, but managed to stay around for 10 years. I went to Swinton and then ended up playing rugby union. So I think a bit of luck, a bit of destiny, call it, playing amateur, doing all right, and then managed to sign for my beloved Salford. So yeah.
You mentioned that your dad was sort of questioning. I'm guessing that he was football mad
like
you. So
City.
he wasn't.
He was a City fan, actually.
Oh, no.
And my brother.
Well,
very bizarre.
Well, we won't
there you go.
talk about that side of things. So he was kind of football mad. Was he not well versed in rugby? Didn't have much knowledge of it.
No, to be fair, my mum's from Oldham as well, so they did used to go and watch rugby quite a lot.
Right.
But they knew I was football mad, so when I went on the rugby side, they were just questioning why you're doing it. But it was more of a friendship, social thing. But I took to it. I played it at school, but didn't really enjoy it that much. Even though I'm really keen for our...
What age was this, by the way?
This was sort of like 16, 17.
Oh, okay, right.
And then I signed for Salford when I was 19, I think. So it all happened pretty quickly. But yeah, I just took to it pretty quick. Enjoyed it, playing at the amateur level. Got coached by an ex-professional, Paul Brownbill, and a guy called Graham Rees, who was an ex-international Welsh guy who really treated me well. But stood me in good stead for later years, the way he treated me and how hard on me he was. He was really good. And then really enjoyed it, and then signed, like I say, when I was 18, 19. I think I left when I was 29, 30, something like that. So I had a good career at Salford, enjoyed it.
You mentioned some mentors that had an influence on you growing up early on. That's something that's massive in business, in sport, in any aspect of life, in building someone from a young age to achieve their potential. Just delve into those qualities. What were those qualities that you were attracted to as a young man that you learnt so much from someone that had already achieved what they wanted to achieve? Yeah,
I think the game in the 80s stroke 90s was, again, changing. Sky came in and made it professional, and Super League evolved. I managed to play in Super League for my last couple of years, I think. But the coaches at the time evolved and changed as well. When I first signed, a guy called Kevin Ashcroft, who was, I won't call him old school, but he was a traditional rugby league coach. And then after a couple of years, Kevin Tamati, ex-New Zealand international, took over and made me captain. So he was with him being a forward as well in my position, I really related to what he used to say in the dressing rooms. We had some good players around us at the time, ex-internationals. John Wilkinson, the chairman, used to sign the likes of Peter Williams, Adrian Hadley, who were both ex-England international rugby union players. So there was a lot of people coming over from rugby union at that time. So really exciting times in the game. I remember Jonathan Davis, for example, signing for Widnes, and John Devereux, Paul Moriarty. So there was a big influx of rugby union players at that time because that was an amateur game. Ours was professional. So the coaches at Salford really impacted on my career, especially Kevin. And I think we played at Old Trafford under Kevin Tamati twice, I think, to get into Super League. So they were good days. Obviously, my dad was always in the background. But I am a big believer in making your own decisions in life. So I managed to steer myself and self-motivate myself into what I wanted to achieve in life and at Salford. And I remember thinking to myself when I first signed, right, make your debut was my first target. I think it's very important for players to set targets. So I set myself as a debut first and then played 10 games. I had some contractual money after 10 games, 20 games. So I managed to achieve all them. And then finally I was starting to think about, as the years progressed, right, I want to be captain. That was my next goal. Ended up doing that. Wanted to play international. Didn't quite manage that, but played for Lancashire versus Yorkshire in the War of the Roses. And we won a couple of second division premiership trophies and league titles at Salford at the time, and I wanted to give the chairman John Wilkinson some success, and we managed to have some great days at Old Trafford, winning there and then winning the league and getting promotion into Super League. So we had some good days. There was a lot of hard days as well off the back of that, but I think the hard days make the good days even more enjoyable, and that's still the same today. You know, you can have ups and downs in sport. It's like that, like any organisation. But we managed to do well as a team. Under, same as we are today, we're not the richest club in town, but we managed to build a culture and a vibe at the place, which I'm really proud of.
I'm guessing now, in hindsight, the weight and the magnitude of you making your debut at a young age, you mentioned 19, you must think that's a lot for a young man to take. But given that you started it relatively late on in your teenage years, did you understand how big that was, or was it because you got into it quite late on, you was actually just like, I'm still sort of learning the importance of everything here? Yeah,
there's a mixture of really nervous, obviously, but excitement, and you're proud because your parents and your family are there watching, and you're gracing the pitch. It was the Willows at the time that legends have trodden there before and played there before, so it was massive for me, being a local lad as well. It was really significant in my life, and I knew it at the time, but you don't realise the impact, like you say, until later on, and you think, oh yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that. And as your career progresses, you learn to manage your nerves. You turn them into energy more than nerves. But that's not easy. That's mind over matter as well sometimes. But it's really important you focus on the game, not the. I remember somebody said to me, "Don't play a game an hour before the kick-off." So make sure you play it when it's kicking off. Don't get too nervous before a game, and that stood me in good stead. A good bit of advice.
When I see you now, you're very jovial, very happy.
Yeah.
Seem like a lovable man, but I wouldn't want to come up against you on the rugby pitch. And from what I've heard, you were described as an enforcer, quite the aggressive, scary type. Go on, explain what you were like on the rugby pitch.
Yeah, a few people have said that. Look, you're in a real tough sport, and if you don't stand up for yourself, people will take advantage of you. That's as simple as it is. And I wanted to be at the forefront of everything we did as a club. That's what I'm still about today. I enjoyed playing. I enjoyed the guys around me. And there's some young kids coming through, and I felt it my prerogative to protect them in a way. So I enjoyed helping them out and protecting them, making sure that you get sort of picked on or bullied. So, but I played it on the edge, I guess you could say. There were some characters around the game at that time when I was playing. And if you didn't stand up for yourself, you'd get swallowed up. So you had to be tough. I like to play it tough. It was fair, I think, sometimes borderline maybe, but that was the game at the time as well. It has changed now. You couldn't get away with half the stuff we got away with back in the 80s and the 90s. Every scrum was probably a bit of a fracas and a melee, and the referee used to say, "Right, lads, now we've got that out of the way. Can we play some rugby now?" So it was a bit of a thing at the time. You wouldn't do it now. But it was great times to play rugby. I'll use a Wigan team, for example, the Ellery Hanleys, the Andy Gregory's, the Sean Edwards. Playing against them was, when I look back now, was special, was good. It was great to play against them. I think we had quite a good run against them at the Willows, playing, and a couple of victories against them. But there were some great teams. Leeds team was good. The St Helens team was good. But some great players, some great characters. Obviously, the international scene was vibrant back then as well, more than it is so now. But I think we've had a successful World Cup last year. But I hope to see the international scene coming back as well.
You mentioned that it's kind of played a lot differently now compared to back then. And you obviously didn't have the benefits to what it is now in terms of the physiotherapy, the healing. I'm guessing just in terms of like high tackles, the hits, the nature of sport like back then, how much pain would your body be in comparison to a Brodie Croft or a Ryan Briley, for example, for today?
Yeah, they get spoiled nowadays, don't they?
Yeah, they're all pampered.
Well, it's a joke with me. Any injury you had at the time, I think we had what was called an ultrasound machine. So no matter what injury you had, you went on the ultrasound. And I remember, I think I snapped my ankle. Well, it was only ligaments at the time, but I didn't know if it was broke or snapped. And the physio said, right, so I'm going to put the ultrasound on it, and if you jump through the roof when I put this on, we know it's broke. So that was the type of treatment you got. Everything was done by the ultrasound. But the lads get looked after now. Things develop, don't they, in business and organisations, and sports developed massively in the last couple of decades. Super League's great. To play in it now would be an absolute joy, I guess. But it's very quick. It's very clinical. Back in our day, you could say it was slow. You'd adapt. You'd adapt to certain games, but it's quick now. It's fast. It's enjoyable to watch as well. But you wouldn't get away with some of the things we did in the 80s. Definitely not. Not with social media and everything that's about now as well. and the way the video ref behaves on a game and match days, it's totally different. But it's great. It's great to see.
So as well, financially, a lot different back then as well. You mentioned semi-professional. So what would a regular week look like for yourself? Were you balancing other jobs alongside it as well?
Yeah, my daughter was asking me about that the other week, actually. So what did you do? It was last night, actually, she was asking me. So our week would consist of, I think a couple of the rugby union guys ended up going full-time before me at Super League. But my typical week would be working Monday to Friday. I was in asset management and construction at the time. So I'd work Monday to Friday. We started to used to train on a Tuesday and Thursday. Then it went to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Then it went to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday mornings, playing weekends all the time. And we used to play Boxing Day and New Year's Day, so there was no festive period really that you could have it as such. And we used to play winter rugby as well, so it wasn't summer. So there was a lot changed. And then we used to obviously work all day and then go and train at night, which was pretty difficult, So virtually you'd get 4 to 5 weeks off in a year, pre-season, and then you'd be back at it again. And I did that, I think, for 10, 12 years at Salford, which in the end probably tells on you mentally as well as physically. And like I say, the treatment wasn't the best back in the day, so your body does fall apart a little bit. I lost count of the number of times I've been in the operating theatre. So it was great times. My body's okay now, not the best, but okay. But it was. I wouldn't change it for anything.
No.
The era that I played in was great, so I wouldn't change it.
Was it actually, you mentioned the mental aspect, was it easy to manage a day job alongside it? Because you've got to do a brain switch, leave whatever has happened at work, and then go to the pitch.
Focus on the training and the game. No, very difficult, and you had to, you drove into the car park from work, and within, 20 minutes you're on the training pitch, wherever that would be. So it wasn't easy, and they have player welfare guys now within the game, which is really good, and I sit on the player welfare board for the RFL, really good. But you didn't get that in the day. It was sort yourself out, lads, and just be on time for training. Don't be late, and make sure you play well at the weekend along with your day job. But that was rugby at the time. That's what it was until the Sky money came in, obviously.
And then we'll just discuss some of your highest and lowest moments as well, because mentally you have to be a different beast to even play a sport, especially a sport like rugby or football. One week you could be winning, the next you're losing, constantly having to go on a roller coaster, pick yourself up after being put down. It must be mentally tough. That.
Yeah, it is. Especially when you're on a losing streak, or when you get injuries, which I had quite a lot in my early career. I had my ankle reconstructed and my shoulder, so I really felt at that time training on your own is difficult. I remember running up and down the big concrete steps in the West Stand, I think it was, at the Willows, which was, for months and months doing that on my own. So yeah, these times when you think, why am I doing this? But every player goes through that, I think, in the career. I remember, I think it was Steve O'Neill, who was assistant coach to Andy Gregg at the time, saying it's how you come out off the back of that. and how you come off the back of defeats or losing runs and injuries. It's the measure of the man that comes off the back of that, and that's something I like to think that I cope with pretty well, but not all players can.
I mean, the benefits of that in comparison to, say, combat sports, like I work with a lot of boxers and MMA fighters, if they lose 3 to 4 months before they can go and rectify that. Whereas at least with your sport, you're like, right, we'll go again next week. You could be, in a week's time, you can feel a lot happier than you did a week ago. Whereas the mental aspect of a combat sport or any kind of sport where there's a long time in between performing, it's tough. So that respect, at least you know you've got another chance to rectify it the week after. Yeah,
it's the same within the game. We can put it right next week and dust off and forget that's gone and move on for the week after. So that's one of the positives within the sport. You can change it pretty quickly. And you're right, the boxers and etc. don't have that chance really. But I always say, and I have huge respect. I love boxing and contact sports in general. Rugby, you're playing every week and the impact on the body is significant. I know it's not punches to the head like boxing is and stuff like that, but it's a real tough sport. Alongside boxing, probably class it as the toughest sport. You don't box as many times in the year as rugby players play, but it's as physical. It's demanding both mentally and physically. But the guys get surrounded by good people now. The backroom team at Salford are tremendous. And they really look after the boys. As you can probably tell by the way we have probably the smallest squad in Super League, but managed to keep what we can on the pitch. It's really good.
Just talking about the low moments as well, did you have a go-to sort of way to mentally recover from things when they didn't go the way that you wanted? And what would you say was the toughest period as a player at Salford?
Yeah, I think we got relegated one year when I was I think a couple of years after I'd signed. I think that's when Kevin Tamati came in and took over. But I was injured at the time, so I was out. So it was weird. It didn't affect me that much. But I knew I'd have to come back strong to help the team get promoted the year after. So I think when you have significant impacts on your life like that, it's good to surround yourself. And you've always got your teammates. That the dressing room is a crazy place at times, but it's there as well to pull you all through. You can pull on your teammates to help you through the tough times. Defeats are never easy to take, as I said. Injuries aren't, but I think you end up with a resilience as a rugby player, and you end up learning to cope with significant impacts on your life that are not easy to take. But you do, as the years go by. That's when I say, he's a good professional. He can handle that type of stuff. You do learn to cope with stuff pretty easily. You
mentioned age 29, 30-ish, you finished playing with Salford. Was that with Salford or Rugby League?
No, I went to Swinton then for a couple of years and played it. It was the old Gig Lane, Bury football. We used to play there, our home games there. And then I went and did rugby union for a while, playing for a local team, Burnley. So I wanted to see what the social side of the rugby union was like. So I went there for the last few years.
What was that like in comparison?
Good. I enjoyed it. Great. And I think I said to you I like watching union. I like watching internationals. I'm not one of these guys who not watching union and vice versa. I enjoy sport in general. So I wanted to taste the rugby union setup. I was playing outside centre, which was a bit easy, but I enjoyed it. It was good times.
Leaving the sport in general, when you have to hang up the boots.
Yeah.
What was that period afterwards like? And then what were you doing with your time? Were you still doing the same job throughout this whole period of playing rugby?
Yeah, it was when we went Super League, when I think Murdoch came in with the Sky money. I had a good career going, obviously in the background then, so I didn't want to go full time, but having said that, I worked for the local authority at the time, so they managed to let me have time off to train during the day. I used to go in and sort the guys out at work, and then go and train, and then go back to work in the afternoon. So I had best of both worlds. It's just because I was over 30 then I thought my time's probably coming to an end in rugby, and I wanted to concentrate on my work career. And I didn't want to go into coaching. Didn't fancy coaching one bit. So yeah, I think mentally I was ready to finish, and I've had a few chats with players over the years. I think the time when you're ready to finish. Not having your weekends to yourself every week ends up taking its toll. It took me decades to realise all this because I was that much involved and loved the sport. But I think when it's time to come, when it's time to draw a close to your career, your body tells you that a little bit. Your mind's still fresh. You think you can do it, but you can't. Your pace goes a bit, and the injuries take a bit longer to get over. But I was ready. I'd done what I thought I could do. I was happy with what I did. It wasn't the same as some careers. but I was happy with what I'd done from coming from nowhere, really. So pleased to get involved back at the club about 7 years ago, but ended up just doing, I think, 20, 30 years in business after that, and I was happy I did that as well.
And that desire to keep learning and that competitive edge, that hasn't gone away. You know, we were talking outside before. You've got 2 degrees since leaving the sport of rugby. You've gone to University of Salford here. Brilliant university, just local. What was that experience like, and the work that went into that as well?
Yeah, it was good, because, and I'm really keen on getting our players to have a great partnership with Salford University. We get 4 master's degrees every year to give to our staff and players, so it's really important that our players do get educated alongside playing. And I was lucky; I sort of like fell into it. I remember one of my managers at the time saying, after I finished playing, saying, "I really like what you do in the business side. I'd like you to go and do some studying." And I wasn't really keen on school. Didn't take to school very well. So going to university I was a bit apprehensive, I guess. But I remember my first day and the teacher saying, "Look, I'm not forcing you to come here, and you'll get out of it what you want to put in." And it was a bit of a flip compared to school. And I was like, "Oh, this is different. Quite like this." And I really enjoyed it. I think I spent 5 years doing my first masters at Salford University, and then did my sporting directorship degree at Media City over the last couple of years. So yeah, it was different. Enjoyed it, and I think it stands you in for good stead in later years in life as well.
You know, you mentioned that you wasn't a big fan of school. Not many people are. They can't wait to get out of there. If you hadn't have found that love for rugby at 16, you know, your clock was running out at that age, when you kind of need to know what sort of path you're going down at 16, 17, 18. If you hadn't have found rugby at that point, what would you have done? What sort of person do you think you would be today without having that release? Yeah,
it's hard to say, and it's not. I have thought about it in the past, but I think there's a destiny in life, and I do. But I don't want to leave anything to chance for our players as well. And that's why I said it's still important for me, I think, to try and get the guys with a clear focus on what they want to do outside rugby. I was just trundling along, I guess. I had an apprenticeship, which was fine at that time. So I knew I was going to have a career in some form in construction and asset management, which I ended up doing as well. But the educational side was really the lift that I needed to sort of, I thought, I can go into leadership and management, which is what I ended up doing. And then off the back of that, I ended up becoming a player's agent. So that gave me a route back into the game. But obviously I'd studied and worked for a long time before that happened. So I sort of like, I'd forged my way in my career in organisations that I probably didn't set out to do. It just, I won't say it fell in my lap, it was just being there at the right time, at the right place, I guess, and you hear that a lot in life, don't you? And I call it destiny, not luck. But I think I applied myself in every avenue I've sort of like undertaken throughout my career and in business and in life, so I've enjoyed every bit of it as well.
And what Salford Red Devils has transformed into has been quite magnificent, because we talked about that period with Jackson Hastings and coming to the grand final, Mawson's first involvement with Salford Red Devils. Right, all came together quite nicely. Outsiders were saying flash in the pan, might not happen again, but you've had Challenge Cup finals, and last season that magic was recreated again. It was absolutely incredible to see. So what has it been like from your position?
Up and down roller coaster type adventure. We're still on an adventure and a journey. I think it came back about 6 years ago. I think Marwan Kukash was in charge at the time. I was a player agent at the time. I transitioned into a bit of player agency with a friend of mine who did the football side. I did the rugby side, so got to know people in the game through that. I actually had Mark Sneed as an 18-year-old, looked after him, and Salford fans blamed me for taking him to Castleford, but I didn't. That was the club saying that he's not going to get in the team, get him somewhere else. So enjoyed my time as an agent, and then Marwan said, "I'd like you to come back to the club," which I did. I think 2016, 17, after the £1 million game.
16, I already checked.
There you go. So after the £1 million game. I've been there since, and we've done a lot of things, I guess. The club was, I'd say, in a bit of turmoil. Marwan, he'll admit it to this day, rubbed people up the wrong way. Just got bad advice from when he first took over. I'd love to have been with him at the start of it all, but unfortunately it wasn't. Then I think he left about 12 months later. So it has been an incredible journey. We haven't won anything yet. I'm dead keen on telling people that we've not won anything. We want to win something, don't we? That's the key. for us. That's a driver. That won't be easy either. But we've come a long way since I stepped through the doors in 16. We were all over the show as a club, I think. Reputationally wasn't good. Governing body relationships were broken down. Agents' relationships. Players really didn't want to come to us. I was on the phone virtually all the time. Where flip it today, and I think we've got a decent reputation. Players, I think, do talk amongst each other, and players do want to come to our club now, and that's rightly so, because we've built a lot in the background. There's some good people involved at the club, helping everybody along. We do help each other out. We're quite a small, close-knit club. We're not where we want to be as a club, nowhere near. You know, when you look at the likes, and I'll use Wigan as the example, their centre of excellence that they've got is far beyond anything we've got. But we can compete with these clubs, and that's down to the coaches and the backroom team doing the fabulous job on and off the pitch, which has happened for a few years now. We've had a taste of a bit of glory getting to the grand final and Wembley. Unfortunately, it was COVID at the time, which didn't help us. And then we came close last year, and that's Paul and Kurt and the team playing some really attractive rugby, I think. And I think if you look at the games that are getting played now, I think people are copying our style a bit. But that's due to the coaching staff. They've been really, really good for us.
The progression has been incredible to see over the years, and the brand of rugby is really exciting. Even as a neutral, I think a lot of neutral fans would say if Salford are playing on TV, they're going to watch. It's guaranteed entertainment. And one thing that we always see when I'm discussing things with players, they always love to keep that underdog mentality and say, keep writing us off, keep writing us off. That lights a fire in everyone at the club, because even though so much has been achieved, like you said, you've not won anything. You've not got to your goal yet, but you've achieved so much from where you were previously. An underdog is something that's very dangerous in sports, isn't it? And even with the success that you plan on having, is that always a title that's going to stay, that you're going to define yourselves as?
It's an interesting question, that, because it can have its downsides to that as well, because you want to be at the top. You know, you don't want to always be the underdog. And I think the perception of us is changing. I think some people outside of the business probably still don't believe what we can do and what we can achieve. I thoroughly believe we can win something. But Paul's role is, you know, he wants us to stand taller, put our chests out, become that bigger club. Not to a point of arrogance, because that's not what it's about, but I think having self-belief within the club, and we have got that. And it's a bit eye of the tiger, isn't it, when you're the underdog and you don't have everything, you can't have everything at your lap. You have to work hard for it, and that's something that I think we've tried to instill at the club. The players know that, you know, they're not coming and getting, you know, everything they desire. That's we just cannot at this moment give them all of that. We'd like a few more players in our squad. Obviously, we'd like probably some more money in the background to do that, but we haven't got it, so we have to do what we can do with the best way and how we can do that, and that's what we try and achieve at the club, and that's about all working hard together. I think that's a Salford mentality as a city. That's the people of Salford, isn't it? They work hard, they graft, they help each other out, they look after their own, and that's something we try and instill at the club as well.
The way that the club has continued to rebuild, you know, Jackson left, probably fans are thinking, oh, that's my hero, how are you going to replace that? Then Brodie Croft is the new hero. You know, Elijah Taylor, we mentioned, captain last year, he's now gone, but there's consistent replacements. You're no longer a selling club, but you're retaining. Brodie signed to a contract extension, Callum Watkins as well. Where did that transition come from yourself? And that's a statement, isn't it? Brodie was the Player of the Year last season. He was absolutely incredible in the Super League, wasn't he? And to retain a talent like that, which I'm guessing your phone must have been going off every week after he was electrifying the pitch. And
I don't like, you know, it's not really about it's how we build a club and how we do it recruitment wise, but without, you know, you can sign, I guess, the best players. You know, the clubs have tried it and failed. It's about your staff and your coaches, and I think we've done that really well with the coaches we've had over the years. So it's not just about sort of like me getting them, because the coaches turn them into the players that they are. And we've, you know, it is fair to say we've I'd say rescued players, but we've given players an opportunity, and that's something that I am dead set proud of, that we've given players an opportunity to come and express themselves at the club. And we look after them. I like to think we look after them. And like I say, players do talk, and reputation does go before you, and it's out there. But I think I'm confident in saying that, speaking to one at 6:30 this morning on a Zoom call in Australia, I'm confident that I can now say that if you come to us, we'll help your career and you'll enjoy it. You'll have a good group of people around you, both in the back office and the backroom team and the players. And I think that goes a long way from where it was when I first came on board, where, as I've said, nobody really wanted to come, and I'm either in the agents, and the relationships have broken down there. So we've built it year on year. The 2019 team, not just Jackson, was the catalyst for that, I guess, because we were struggling in 18. I think we got to a semi-final of the Challenge Cup in 17. So the signs were there. We just needed to, and I thought when I came back on board, if I can just capture a few big names, not necessarily big names, but good players as well, we can sort of like set the spark again at the club, which we've managed to do, obviously, with Brodie, Callum, and even Mark Sneed. Ollie Partington, who we signed this year, is going to be a great sign, as you say, replacement for Elijah Taylor. And we're in the midst of recruiting for next year now, so things are going all right there. So it's again, with the help of the coaching team, how do we go and get that player who we think will sit in perfectly with our system? And we've managed to do that successfully over the last few years, and it's great to see. And when I've spoke to players over the years, it is about come and enjoy your rugby. Brodie was a great example of that. I remember having our first Zoom call with him and his agent. I was like, you could see he had a smile on his face, but you didn't see it. You couldn't see it in the NRL because he was having a horrific time, and he admits that himself. And it was time for him to get out of it and come here. And he played with a smile on his face all year, didn't he? But there was other good players around him making that happen as well. Got a great spine, Andy Ackers, Ryan Brierley helped him tremendously, and Mark Sneed as well, as I've already mentioned. And I don't like mentioning players, but I think the quality of the squad that we've got there is really good. And if I'd thought about that in 2016-17 to have the quality we've got now, I probably thought that might be a bit too far away, but we've made it happen, and we've signed some long-term now as well, which is always good. So, as I keep saying, we are building. There's still a lot more to do. My job's getting them players over the line and making sure that coach has got a good squad to pick from. So
it's not just the recruitment in terms of the players that's important, is it? It's the overarching sort of feel of the club that encompasses the Salford Red Devils vibe, that everyone's on the same wavelength, they're all working towards the same goal. And the media team as well. I know you have a close link with the University of Salford, so it's a great way to get into rugby league and sports journalism from that respect as well. But just targeting the other areas of the club as a business, how important is it to get the right people in the right roles, and what qualities do you look for?
It's significant. If you look what we've done with, we've got the reserve set up. Our women's team's coming to fruition now. We've got our disability team as well. So across the board, we've got some great people working within the club. And it's got to be done the Salford way, because you don't have everything thrown at you, as I keep saying, but you have to work hard and graft hard. And that's the same with the relationships we've got. The university has been tremendous. Mawson as sponsors has been a great relationship. And we're thankful of that. We've got like Selco on board last year. A great brand, So big things are happening off the pitch as well as on the pitch. And that's down to some great effort by the board in the background at the club. So year on year we keep building, keep getting the right people, not just on the pitch, off the pitch, and we'll prosper.
I know that you have partnerships with the Welsh Rugby League and Ghana as well. So how did they come about, and do we have any gems on the horizon that you can tell us about? Can you give us an exclusive here?
I think we did one with the Ponsonby New Zealand team last week. That was good. That went down. We've got Ipswich Jets in Australia. We've got Ghana. And we've got the Welsh connection, which I think we've signed 4 or 5 from the Welsh setup now, which is good, which is great. And we've got a few homegrown players coming through our development academy now and our Reds system. So everything's working well. I'm working on something as well in the background, which will be a good one if it does come off. Quite a big name in the world of football, actually.
Hints? Any hints?
Let me work on it first. I'm in the early throes of it. So, and it's good. It's about your brand awareness, and that's what these are about. Not just ticking boxes. It's about brand awareness and helping. The Ghana one's a prime example of going out there, assisting them with their rugby. Same, Ipswich Jets are well established anyway, and the New Zealand guys approached us to say, look, can you assist and help us on our strength and conditioning and our tactical awareness? And we're like, yeah, of course we can. That's what we do as a club. That's what we're about as a club. So the partnerships are great. Really, really exciting, and I hope we continue to build them as well as a club.
So Andrew, who you met before, massive Salford fan, he was explaining to me the sort of importance of a potential Category A academy team. For myself and for people that don't know the magnitude of that, can you explain what that would do for the club and where the club is at the moment with the academy?
So, we went for the licence, I think it was 2 years ago now. We didn't get one. There's a couple of other clubs didn't get one. Lee didn't get one at the time. And then a couple of other clubs didn't get one but have now been given one. And I think we disestablished the academy in 2016, just before I got to the club. It's a costly system to have in place, but it's an important one because everybody else is doing it. So you've got the likes of Wigan and Saints coming into our geographical area, taking our players from our community clubs when they're good enough, which is never a good thing for us. And I'm really keen on getting, like myself and some others who played around me, Andy Burgess, Paul Fletcher, for example, who came through the systems, the community club systems, getting that back in place. We've got our development academy at the moment who are based at Eccles College, who got to a semi-final, got beaten in a semi-final against Warrington this week. But they've got 2 teams there. And then I've got a guy called Chris Irwin doing our under-16s and under-18s pathway. Our Reds are elite pathway as well. So we've got some good strands of player pathways there. They can go into our reserve team and then ultimately into the first team. But each team has a Category A, Category 1 academy where they have circa a squad similar to the first team, 30 players coming through their systems at 16s and 18s. Who are in a full-time environment, which is really important to breed players for your reserves and your first team. And we haven't got that at the moment. We can't have that at the moment. IMG coming in, looking at the game as a whole, reimagining Rugby League as the title, hopefully will make or will say to every club as part of the minimum standards that you have to have an academy. You definitely have to have a women's team as well. So we'll wait to see. That's still in the early discussions and throes of being discussed at Super League level at the moment. But that will be a bonus if we get it, but it will be a cost burden to the club that we need to find how we're going to manage to fund that as well. But if we are going to produce our own, which is I'm really keen on doing, we definitely need it in place.
I hope to see it happen.
Yeah, me too.
We talked about mentorships before in terms of your life growing up and getting into the sport of rugby league. But now the position that you're in, you mentioned that when you first spoke to Brodie Croft, he wasn't as happy as he is now, wasn't having the best time with the sport as he is now. That gives you an opportunity to share your life experiences in the game and be a mentor that you needed when you was younger. So what's it like on the other side of that coin? What's it like being a mentor for someone else and some of the best professional players in the game?
I think certainly the professionals that we've got at the club, the players are really they're brought up from a young age now, and they train, especially guys coming from the NRL. They verse with the media, etc. So they know what they're doing. I never really I don't force myself upon them to tell them anything really, but when I do speak to them, I try and get them to embrace what the club's about, who we are as people, and we look at them as being, good people, good-natured people. We do a bit of background research before we recruit them as well, to make sure they're not misbehaving in any way, shape, or form. But that can happen. You can get into certain incidents in your life that you wish you hadn't have done, and we've had players like that in the past, and we've managed to turn them around, and they've played really well for us. So I think, Paul, the head coach, Paul Rowley, prides himself on being like a father figure to them. He takes them really well under his wing, and he's there for them daily. I'm there, I'm only around the corner in the office from him, so it's good to see. I tend to keep it to a contractual and recruitment level, really, with them. But they always come into the office. We have a bit of banter. It's part of the rugby league way, but it's always dead professional in the club as well. I
know you mentioned as a player, you live your life through targets. You had your debut as a target, and then things would build on top of that. Just where you're at now in your life, what are your targets? Did you have 5-10-year plans or?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's bizarre you should say that. I was thinking about that this morning, actually. When I came back to the club, I had a 10-year, decade plan in my mind.
Yeah.
And I've still got the business plan that I wrote in the first couple of months. I still reflect on that, where we're at as a club. So yeah, I still set them targets. I think they change, and I think if businesses don't change and move with the surrounding environment around them, they'll stall and they'll falter. So we've had to do a lot of change as a business. We've had new ownership, we've had new people come into the club, new setup, new structures. And all this time you've got to keep winning as well, so it's not an easy balance. I think we've got more community involvement now as a club. I think the fans, we've not mentioned the fans are brilliant, absolutely tremendous. And I was speaking to Jackson Hastings last week, actually. He still shows me the videos of him getting chaired out at the AJ Bell, as it was at the time. He loved it. The fans are brilliant. The community around us, the council are really getting involved with us now and helping us with the stadium, etc. So it's got a great vibe around the place. I think you speak to the players, they enjoy being there. I was speaking to Ollie Partington this week. He loves being at the club, and I never thought we'd get Ollie Partington away from Wigan and he'd come and enjoy it, but he is doing. So I guess it's my job to keep getting them types of players to make sure we've got a healthy team, a fit team, a challenging team who can win something for us ultimately, but compete at the top. We don't want to keep looking down, which has happened in years and years gone by. We want to work our socks off to be at the top of that league and hopefully bring something home for the city of Salford.
Brilliant. I think that wraps up the podcast. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and it's been really interesting finding out about your life and your current position at the club. It's a massively exciting time to be a spectator and a fan of Salford, and I'm really excited to see how the season unfolds.
Well, thanks to you guys. It's always a pleasure to be in the Mawson environment, and thanks to Jed for his sponsorship. It's really appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant.